Good morning, everybody. My name is Ahmadian, CEO Heliospectra, an innovative company working with basically bringing control and automation and in the lighting in the horticulture. The company, a little bit of history, established in 2006 with a kind of an ambition that we would like to build a solution that we can kind of communicate with the crops. When we talk about crops, I mean like the plants that are growing in the greenhouses or indoor environment like lettuce, tomato, make sure that how the quality of those crops are and what are the resources that are needed to just reach the highest quality. We have actually offices in Toronto, Canada, Chicago in the US, Japan, as well as in Sweden. The head office, of course, in Gothenburg, where I come from this morning. And we have installation from 1 to 10 hectares. And what is the core for the company is actually the knowledge that we gathered over the years about the light quality and light quantity that is needed for every particular plant based on what growers needed as a result. So we've done more than 1,000 different type of light spectrum tests and also around 100 plus basically white papers in the scientific. I'm gonna go through a little bit about the history and why we are doing this. And if you look at it today, I mean, like we have population is growing, so we need to kind of supply more food to the growth population. Urbanization happening, so there are more people living in the kind of cities and the rural areas is not an option that just ship products from one point another. Sustainability driving demands today. I mean, the consumers, especially in Nordic and the Europe and the developed countries, they're very much asking for sustainable products. Food security is an issue, because we need to kind of make sure that we can bring food 365 days a year. And not last but not least, we would like to work on the resource conservation. With the solution that we are offering, we can actually reduce the amount of, for example, water consumption in the growing the certain plant compared to the conventional way by 98%. So by only 2% of the water, you can just grow the same type of crops, as well as electricity and all the other resources. So the company started, as I said, in 2006. The idea was very simple. We wanted to know that what is the best, most optimum spectrum to grow any type of crop in the most optimum way. In 2014, since we were a research company back in 2006, we needed a solution for our own research. So we developed our first LED light. That time we didn't have an idea to just commercialize the solution, but we want to just have something that we can actually do our own research on. That actually led to some sort of commercial success and a breakthrough. So there are customers, universities started, and then basically medical cannabis growers, they got very much interested in the solution that we are providing. In 2017, we introduced basically the sole control and automation system for lighting in the greenhouses. So we have LED lighting, but also we have the control. We call it HelioCore, developed in Gothenburg, where we can just make sure that every single time of the day, the crops always exposed to the best quality of the light and also best quantity of the light. And our philosophy in developing HelioCore is very much of a Swedish word of lagom. So we would like to make sure that the crop only get lagom amount of light at the time that they're needed. And then these last years, I mean, we've done so much research in order to just materialize our own patented technology, which is about biosensor. With the biosensor, what we are going to enable the growers to do is that we can communicate with the crop. Means that we can ask the crop, is the light is okay, temperature, heat, air, and humidity, and we can communicate that and adjust the variables in the environment, and which I'm gonna go through a little bit more detail. So the idea of the company in 2006 was where we are today, and we have been aspiring with kind of commercializing LED in order to just make sure that we have a good communication with our growers and understand their need, basically. So if you look at our business segment, of course, LED lights is basically our basic one market segment. We have control system, HelioCore. We have services which we kind of come under HelioCare, which I'm gonna explain further. And by next year, we're gonna introduce the biosensor, as I explained before. So if you look at it, this is a schematic of the greenhouse here, and a schematic of a vertical farming where you grow indoor in a very much of a packed environment. So the first solution that we are offering is actually our LED lighting, which is very much designed for working in the greenhouse environment as well as indoor environment. We have our Helio Core, which is this box basically here, combination of with the light sensors. That's how we constantly measure the amount of light that is available on the canopy and make sure that we always hit the amount of light that is needed by the crop. Here we develop quite a sophisticated algorithm in order to just calculate DLI, which is daily light integral, the total amount of light that is needed in one day for the crop to just have the perfect growth. And the Helio Core does everything automatically. But at the same time, what Helio Core does is that in the countries or places that the price of electricity is different, in the morning, in the noon, in the evening, make sure that the lights become on and active when the price of electricity is the most optimal. So not that you save electricity, but also can save even further costs by make sure that the crops are on when there is a pretty good price for the electricity. We have Helio Care, which is actually our expert solution that we provide to our customers, making sure that they can choose the right solution and they can run our solution in the best, most optimum way. And we are the only company actually today that we are offering all these three in the world. I mean, in a layman term, I always say that a LED light is like you buy a car without a steering wheel. With Helio Core, you just get a control over your lighting. So you get basically a steering wheel. And with the expert solution, we teach you how to drive. And last but not least, this is something that we have been researching for over 15 years. We have a patented technology. We are introducing a biosensor in next year to just make sure that we can combine the whole solution. So the grower is not to get the over control over light, also have a control over the growth of the plants. This is actually some picture of some of our products. I mean, on the top we have Mitra, which is built for commercial installation for growing tomatoes, growing basils, growing different type of crops. Elixir and Dyna, the last one, is mainly towards the research and AgTech. AgTech are the companies like Syngenta that are doing a lot of research. So they would like to have a valuable spectrum light. So you can actually bring any sort of a spectrum of light. You can just simulate the light in Spain, in Sweden. You can simulate the light in Colombia, in Canada. And that is actually give you the whole free hand in order to just do the research, make sure that you're going to get the spectrum of light that you needed. And Sierra, the one in between, is actually a solution for vertical farming installations. Talking about biosensor, is just the kind of values that it's bringing is that it has surveillance and control. So basically, you're constantly monitoring your crop, see that how it is working in the growth path. And one of the things that is happening today, the growers, they make the harvest 5 days, 10 days after actually the crop already has reached its peak. With our sensor, we make sure that you're going to do the harvest faster. So you're going to shave off some of those harvesting time. But at the same time, we are controlling the stress that is actually crop is imposed to. For example, this can be like because of heat, because of light, can be because of diseases. So we can just monitor that. To just give you an example, I just, 2 months ago, I was in Canada visiting one of our customers, and for every 5 hectares of installation of growing tomato, every year they're losing $2 million only because of the diseases that they kind of come to the greenhouses. So if you can detect those diseases at the right time, there's going to be a huge saving for the customer. And the biosensor technology has basically today, we are going to offer growth tracking control, making sure that when the crop reach its peak growth, but also optimal light control, making sure that we constantly, if there is any stress, we can manage the light quantity and quality in order to just make sure the crop is healthy. So reduce the amount of waste eventually. Our market segment, customer segment today are basically commercial greenhouses. This is actually a picture of installation in the UK. Indoor grow facilities, which is mainly in the basically growing medical cannabis. Vertical farming, you can grow like a short crops in a very much of a dense environment, like lettuce, basil, dill, these type of products. Research and AgTech, but also we are going to work from next year with a climate control system, because majority of the greenhouses, they use a control system in order to just manage their own environment. So with our sensor, we can actually complement their solution for the growers to just make sure that all the other parameters other than light, which is humidity, temperature, and basically CO2, is controlled also in the most relatively well for the crop, offering our solution to those growers. This is actually an example of the Bridge Farm group. This is an installation that they use Mitra and Elixia. So they managed to save 40%. They have actually 10 days faster harvest, but also they improve their quality, which is basically flavor of those basils and shelf life and everything. Another example here in Sweden, Tibro, Ljusgårda. It's a kind of vertical setup for growing mainly lettuce and also herbs. And they reduce the amount of basic production time by 20%. So basically could make a better harvest because we're offering them not just the amount of light, but also the right quality of light. And we can grow 365 days a year growing different type of crops. Sonrid is one of our customers in growing medical cannabis, and that is exactly the same thing. For what we offer to these growers is that since the price of the product is, or the value of the product that they're growing is very much high, if you can shave off 1 or 2 days in the harvest, actually you're going to get a profit at the end of the year. And that is how we are working with a customized solution for these type of customers. So if you look at our value added, so there are a lot of growers concerned. So they always think about economy, plant monitoring is very important. Pests and diseases, always an issue when you go to talk to the growers. Repeatability, so it means that once you kind of hit the nail on the product you have, you don't know what type of weather forecast you're going to get the year after or the season after. So how can we just make sure that we can repeat the same thing irrespective of the basic environmental issues, and also data and documentation. So what we are offering here is actually, sorry, can I go back? Yes. So we help the growers to control the consistency. So when we have combined our light with our control, with our sensor technology, we make sure that you get the same type of product, like the same tomato, same size, same flavor, same shelf life, but also you can have a control over consistency. So if you have a peak in the demand of for the production, you can make sure you can tailor-make your production to just reach those peaks. One good example would be like in Sweden. In June, due to midsummer, there's a huge consumption of dill. But if you're in April and May and you don't know how much sun you're going to get, you basically as a grower, you don't know how time can you deliver for those demands. With our solution, we make sure that we always, back to the lagom concept, the crop gets exposed to the exact same amount of light that is needed in order to just reach the production peak. Reduce loss, waste. Like a good example would be on the lettuce, for example. If you just have too much of light or too much of heat, you're going to get tip burns. So once you kind of have the perfect control, lagom amount of light again, you make sure that you always get the same crop and a better quality. But also the nutrition level. The way we are working with the growers is that a very much crop-specific type of solutions. Means that if you buy a kind of head of lettuce, most probably the first layers of lettuce that we normally throw them away, they are the most nutrition one. And the reason is that the light doesn't penetrate enough, so you're not going to get the same level of nutrition in another layer of lettuce. What we do again, if that's a criteria, we can make sure that we have a light spectrum with the right regime that's going to bring the lettuce with a much more nutrition lettuce at the end of the day. And of course, they're improving the product quality. We have actually a customer very close to us that they're producing arugula. And arugula, they produce it for Italy and also for Sweden. If you look at arugula in Sweden, the flavor is kind of bland because that is how we like the arugula taste like. But the taste of arugula for Italy going to be like much more pungent. It's a lot of taste to it. Same seed, same growing environment, different light strategy and control. We can produce the same arugula in the same environment, one for Italian flavor and the other one for Swedish flavor. And that is how we are working with the growers. So we always start with the crop. We always start talking to them with a consultative way. What is it that you're looking after? And we make sure they can bring the solution to them. The financial result, I mean, basically last year, basically on a half year, this year 23.9 was our sales. Compared to last year, we had a little bit of a drop. Our order intake is a little bit of an odd number. The reason I put a minus number is that we had quite a large order received 2 years ago from a customer in Australia, 72 million SEK. The customer didn't manage to done the financing, so we had to remove it from our books. And when it's come to operating result, we're quite constant with the plan that we have. We are spending a lot and investing a lot in the materializing the sensor technology that we have. So what we do is that our strategy has been that we can put our lighting out there, talk to customers, different type of customers and growers, make sure that we can understand their demand so we can implement the sensor that can supply those demand and us actually helping the customer to grow even better crops. Basically, this is our shareholders, which is, I would say that close to 70% of the shares belong to 3 main owners, Veland, Adma, as well as Midrock New Technology. And the rest is actually free floating in the market. And that's actually a pretty good sign because all of our shareholders are very much thinking about the company as in the long term. They have been with us over a decade, and we make sure that we can bring basically their vision, which is actually making sure that we can hit on the nature's potential. So whatever you can grow in anywhere in the world, we would like to enable our growers to just grow that in their facility. By that, thank you very much. That was a short presentation about the company. And yeah, any question?
Thank you very much, Ali. It was very interesting to learn the thing about the lettuce. I will think twice about throwing away the first couple of leaves now. Those are actually the best for me.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
More chlorophyll.
Yeah. I'm very curious about the new biosensor that you're launching next year. And I know you have been talking about this before. It has been some time coming. But I think it's worth explaining what this actually does. I mean, it is a kind of sensor that is pointed towards the plants itself. And what kind of sensors are they? Are they optical? Is it a sort of image analysis behind that, or are there other kinds of sensors?
So basically what we do is that, every crop, they have some fluorescence emitted. What we do is that we know that scientifically that based on different stage of the growth, and also whether you have a stress or not, the signal for this fluorescence would be different. So what we do with our technology, which is actually took us 15 years to develop because it was a lot of research involved together with Chalmers University, Wageningen University, SLU. It was like a big group of scientists that kind of work with the idea, is that we excite the crop, we measure the signal, and then we know that's actually how the graph should look like. Then we can figure out if the crop is ready for harvest, is it under stress, and if there is a stress, what would that be? And then we can just change the parameters to just make sure that the crops grow in a healthy environment.
And the idea is that the output from the sensors goes back to the Heliocore. And then it could execute changes in the environment. And is it also correct that it would integrate with not only the lighting system, but also other kinds of environmental inputs? That's what
we are trying to kind of figure it out, actually right now, working with whether we would like to kind of position the sensor together with our solution, or as well as a parallel, as a standalone product. So in principle, it can work with any type of system. As long as you can control your light, you're able to just have the kind of a privilege to just understand and talk to the crop. Because talking to is one thing, seeing is something else. When you do the image processing, which is also there are solutions out there, is actually talking about the history. So something happened, and you can figure it out. But with the sensor, we're going to understand what kind of trajectory of the growth or trajectory of failure is happening. So we can actually be much faster before disaster happen.
Okay. And also the biosensors, are they supposed to be a standalone product that you will sell separately? Or is it strategic thinking here that you can sell them at almost no margin at all because strategically they improve the value of the Heliocore system?
That's correct. That's one way of looking at it. But at the same time, when we're working with when we talk with the kind of I would say key opinion leaders in horticulture, they say that this actually going to revolutionize the whole thing. So hopefully it's become a standardized solution for the future. So we can see it in every greenhouses in the world. So right now we don't have a plan to just give it free of charge in order to sell lights. So we would like to kind of have a good business model. Hopefully a licensing model, so we can actually position it better in the market.
Okay, and in order to keep a tight control of the crops, I assume that you have to position these sensors quite densely together. So is it a huge investment for the grower?
It's a very good question. It depends on what they're growing. So if they're growing in a different type of beds and the zones, because Heliocore, we develop Heliocore based on how the grower is actually operating their. So we saw that the zone is actually an issue. So So basically for every zone, if you want to go very nitty-gritty for every light, you need to have one sensor, but that is what we don't recommend that. But what we saw in the investment is that for a couple of 10, 20 square meter, you now have a sensor. And if you look at the business case for it, especially if we can figure out and monetize the amount of saving that is going to bring to the customer, the payback is actually less than a year if you look at the amount of saving, especially on the waste side and the stress side.
Okay. And in terms of your customer orientation, in the past you have had a lot of business from the cannabis sector for obvious reasons, because that's a light-hungry crop. But I know that you have been trying to reorient more towards food growers. But are you still going to address the cannabis market, or are you done with that now?
So if you look at the cannabis market, a large installation of cannabis facility is not even close to a small installation of tomato. I mean, tomato is the highest fruit. It's a fruit, actually. We think it's vegetable, but it's the highest consumed fruit in the world, right? So, and also if you look at the expertise that we developed in Sweden, we don't do the research on cannabis. I mean, cannabis, they look at the light as a commodity, whereas if you look at the food growers, they're looking at it as a whole solution. They want to understand, get the expert services from us. They want to have the full control. We know that the tomato grower is talking about autonomous greenhouse, means that the greenhouse that is automatically going to work. So strategically, actually, our future is going to be in growing food and those type of crops. Cannabis, of course, we haven't made any decision to exit that market, but probably it's going to become very much a small niche as we're growing forward.
Okay. And also you said before that the sales process towards the food growers are longer.
Absolutely.
So the scales are bigger, but the sales process is longer. Does that mean that you're going to have more volatile turnover figures if you look ahead? Is that a reasonable assumption?
I think the volatility actually comes majorly from us, from the cannabis growers, because either they need to have, of course, they're quicker in making decisions, but sometimes they don't have the license, they don't know how to grow. So what we see is that if we can grow our pipeline with a targeted market towards those food growers, can be propagators, can be like a snack tomato growers, and then we can have just a bunch of pipeline, because as you said, it takes 2 to 3 years to just finalize a large kind of growth or large sales in that kind of market segment. What we're thinking is that we need to have it targeted, stay focused. We build some customer intimacy between us and the growers, and hopefully over the years we're going to have repetitive orders from different customers coming by.
But is it also? Could you also say the food growers as a group are better customers because I mean you don't have the reputational risk associated with them, the same as cannabis, and also presumably they have been around longer, they have better credit and things like that.
Better is very subjective, I would say. It's hard to say, but what I would like to say is that food growers, mainly third generation, fourth generation growers, they know exactly what they need to reach, they know exactly what they want, and they have actually the experience to kind of vocalize or verbalize for us that what their demands are. So in a way, we can say that we have a bit much more chemistry with them. Whereas cannabis growers, they're also very much knowledgeable and everything, but sometimes they're coming from the investment side, and maybe they don't have the experience, because how many years it is legalized. I mean, we don't have even school programs for growing cannabis, just introduced like the last 2 or 3 years in Canada and North America. So the knowledge needs to still grow in that space. So we believe that we have a much more chemistry and intimacy with the food growers. Not to mention that we have actually also gathered a lot of experience in the cannabis. And just 2 days ago, we just awarded as the #1 lighting company in Canada for cannabis growers. So it is there, but we believe that there is much more. We can build a much better intimacy with the food growers in the future.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Ali.
Thank you.